Hello and welcome to the Bear Right Trail podcast. I am your host, Sam Kirk, and I am here today with Will Murray. Will Murray got his golden ticket to Western States at Black Canyon this year with the second fastest performance ever on that course. He kind of burst onto the scene there. And has been doing great preparation for the race out of Blairstown, New Jersey. We're going to get into a little bit of stuff about that in a little bit. But as I'm sure most of the people listening know, some things changed for Will recently after him going out to the Western States course for previewing and things like that. And unfortunately, is not racing Western States this year. So this is a little bit of a different episode than we were expecting to have. But nonetheless, Will, welcome from, I guess you said outside of Truckee, is that right?
Yep, just about 15 minutes up above Truckee. And yeah, thanks for having me, Sam. It was good to run with you a couple weeks ago, so good to chat.
Yeah, I mean, I can sort of say the same. I was suffering the entire time as you were in your upper zone one, lower zone two training out there. But yeah, it was good. It was like my biggest workout of 2025. So thank you for that. um, it was I gotta say, Will, it was interesting coming to meet you out there. I've gone out to the Delaware Water Gap a couple of times. So for those who are unfamiliar, Blairstown, New Jersey is kind of in the Delaware Water Gap area. This is yeah, kind of the northern part of the Delaware River, very dramatic landscape. The Appalachian Trail comes through here. Further down is where Washington crossed the Delaware and stuff like that. But this is, I wouldn't call it remote, but it's not a highly populated area by any means as well. And when I was coming in, following the directions off of Google Maps, I thought it kind of interesting that when I exited, the the two major signs that I saw outside of Blairstown, New Jersey, were errors. I could go to Blairstown, New Jersey, or I could go another way, and that would take me to the historic village of Hope, um, or the land of make believe. And I was like, where am I? Like what is going on here? So, um, is Blairstown just like reality, and everywhere else is just
Yeah, it's a
uh,
it's a cool area. It's like you say, I wouldn't call it remote. I mean, we're probably an hour and a half away from New York City, but it is rural. And
yeah,
before I moved to Blairstown 4 years ago or so, I thought of New Jersey as just, sort of the suburbs of New York. But a lot of New Jersey, especially Northwest New Jersey, is this like pretty, it's the Garden State, pretty rural
yeah.
landscape and just little towns with small populations, mostly residential area and just like one main street we have in Blairstown. Um, so yeah, the land of make believe is like um, I want to say like a pretty low budget kids amusement park, and that's just outside of the town of Hope. And then if you go the other direction, you get to Blairstown. And I live there because I've been teaching at a boarding school in Blairstown for the last 4 years. And it's kind of like boarding schools, one of the reasons that they tend to be in rural areas is so that, um, we have like an environment sort of away from it all where we can just focus
Hmm.
on um, school and sports and sort of form the relationships that students want to form in like a live away school environment. So yeah, it's quiet and like you say, the Appalachian Trail and Delaware Water Gap, but we also have a nice dirt path that connects to some other small trail networks. usually I have the trails all to myself. Sometimes I'll see like one or two regulars walking their dog. Um, and yeah, that actually suits me pretty well. I like to train alone. I value time by myself, but it's a good place to live. It's maybe not the first place you would expect to be like training for something like Western States, but yeah, it's a cool area.
Yeah, I like maybe we'll get into some of the way that you train, but after meeting you, after running with you, and we were talking a little bit about it, when I was driving home, I started down this. I went through the historic Village of Hope, and then basically kind of cutting along the river, I guess, south. Um, and I was just thinking about how great of a bike riding road this would be, and I was like, I bet you this is one of the, the ways that, that Will heads out on his rides and things along those lines. And just, it was just smooth and, curving around. You've got, the hills on either side. So it's very picturesque and, really nice. And, I don't know whether you're trying to get a lot of climbing when you're riding or not, and that sort of stuff. But it seemed to me like a surprisingly great training ground where you have the climbing and technical trails with with the Appalachian Trail coming through there and sort of the Pocono Mountains right at your doorstep, as well as these gravel paths and great biking roads as well. So I
Yeah,
was just like, yeah, this seems like a pretty great place. Probably not a lot of training partners, but pretty
yeah. I
great
mean,
place to
that's
train.
the one drawback is that I don't really have training partners. But one of the like main criteria I've always looked for in good places for training is just variety. Like you can think of some places that would be really majestic, like training grounds, but there might only be like out and backs available. Um, or there might only be mountains available and no place to run fast or ride your bike fast on flatter terrain. But like variety is kind of the number one thing I look for anyway, and like a great place to train. And Blairstown definitely has that. Like I think the road riding for cycling is probably the best aspect in terms of a place to train. Not to say the trail running isn't good. Like at the Delaware Water Gap, you have a pretty good variety of trails, and like you can run some flat, some more technical stuff. There are some longish climbs, but yeah, it's the variety that I think makes it a good place.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it seemed, I think, to most observers that you were getting some really great training in. You had talked to me about the fact that you were getting bigger volume and you felt way more fit than you did going into Black Canyon, which you absolutely just ran an incredible race. I know I had listened to, Seth Ruling had talked a little bit about having the pressure of you behind him in that race in one of his podcast episodes, and also mentioned he was like he was glad you didn't have a pacer. you know that yeah. So just sort of these things coming into Western States, you you were feeling really primed, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a totally different athlete than I was going into Black Canyon. I mean, I've probably never made this much progress in like 3 months in the rest of my athletic pursuits.
Wow.
That's not to say I didn't feel confident in a good place before Black Canyon, and I guess we won't know what was possible before Western States this year. But yeah, it was just a lot of consistency. I was able to get in, like you said, a lot more volume than I ever have, combining running with cycling. But I felt like fresher than ever physically, and mentally. I was just happy to get out every day, and I think that's been the biggest thing. Is I just if you're if you're happy and motivated to get out and move every day, then like you're gonna get better. And I've just had like 2.5 months, 3 months of an unbelievable run of every single day I want to get outside and move, and I think that's what contributed to me getting so much better. And I mean, I got faster, but also more endurant. I got better at climbing. And I know that's not all going to go to waste. Like I don't get to
Oh
race
no, yeah.
next weekend, but I'm hoping to build on that for some race later in the year, hopefully.
So you were saying in the past 3 months you felt like you progressed immensely,
Yeah.
and like you said, more than any other time. So do you keep a lot of like a lot of records on your training and kind of I don't know, like maybe take notes on how you're feeling, that you like look back on that, or is this just kind of a sense that you have?
I mean, I have all of my training saved like through my watch, of course, like most of us
Yeah,
do
yeah.
these days. And I do like I write in my journal about my training, but not it's not a religious like every day write something about the workout. This was more just yeah, like I was doing stuff in workouts that I've never been able to do in races before. It was more just an intuition, like a feeling, and also numbers to back it up for specific workouts. Like I knew I was making progress. I think
Yeah.
the one thing you definitely notice as an athlete, like as you progress, is the better you get, the more tools you have to get even better after that. It's like
Oh,
it builds on itself. So maybe that's been the biggest foundation of how I've made progress. But then on the other hand, you also think as you get better, maybe the gains that you make are smaller, just because you've picked the low hanging fruit. But yeah, I don't know. It was a good consistent few months.
I'll tell you what though, that low hanging fruit, like you gotta pick it, right?
Yeah,
Like there's something to be like, oh, yeah, it's just low hanging fruit, but you got to pick that fruit and you got to put it in your basket for sure. And that's got to be the first ones you do. And
yeah,
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. you know, um, I've kind of felt that, with my own training and things along those lines, like if I don't do that, um, I don't get to quite frankly, I don't get to the higher fruit, right? Like I don't,
yeah,
if you don't collect that stuff and do the easy things, you don't get to the harder things. So I think it's great that like you feel like you were taking really really big strides, because that's super motivational. It can get really tough because it's not a linear path, and um and you like seem very aware of that. I'm sure that some of the people listening will have read your post on Strava about withdrawing from Western, after this great training block. Um, and and I think your perspective comes through with that as well. Um, so kind of moving forward from the training. So you came through great block of training, feel like you're progressing in ways that you hadn't. Were there you had mentioned that there were things you did in workouts that you had never done in races, or you hadn't done before. I have some in mind that I think might have been major workouts, but were there any indicators that you would like to shed light on, that were like ones that were just like big wow moments?
yeah. I mean, I hopped into a local race, the Jim Thorpe Marathon, which was really fun. It's a point to point marathon on like a flat gravel path from around, and it ends in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. I hopped in there just as my sort of like hard weekend run and ran a 9 minute marathon PR. So that was surprising to me. Um, and then something new that I incorporated into my training during this spring was I started doing long bike rides. On Sundays, I didn't have teaching or coaching responsibilities, so I would use the whole day and I'd do a long bike ride straight into a quick change of clothes, long run, and especially focusing on climbing for that on trails. Well, riding a bike, you kind of get a similar stimulus to like running uphill because
Because
you're
of the
sort of
constant
pushing on the
resistance. Yeah.
pedals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so the idea was to simulate for, 4 hours or so, like pushing on the bike like you're running uphill, and then go into running on trails. And typically I would make the last bit of the run. So maybe I'd do like a 4 hour run after, and the last hour or two I would try to run faster and on smoother terrain. Like, because part of the challenge of Western States is getting through the hardest part of the course in that first 100K, and then being able to run smooth and well to the finish when the course is a little bit more forgiving, I guess, in the last 60K or so. And then, yeah, just like in terms of a focus on long runs, I did much longer long runs than I've ever done for an ultra before. And um, yeah, like threw down some things that would have been good races for me in the past. So it just as part of
Yeah.
training week. So yeah, I was happy with where I was at. Well, I am happy with where I'm at. Just gotta
Yeah.
heal a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know that there was one in particular that, because people were talking about these 50-mile runs that people were doing, right? So
Yeah,
Killian had his 50-miler with whatever vert was in there. I don't know, it was like 9,000 feet or something. And then David Roche had the Quad Rock 50, and um, I think I don't remember what his time was for that, but course record time. And then I look at your 50-mile trail run, and it's basically the same as Killian's, which people are trying to compare with David Roche's. So it seemed like from just like a fitness perspective, you're right there with all the people that are being considered top contenders now. Um, you know, and it just I think we're all like just kind of mourning this a little bit, but um, moving forward, you've got nothing but opportunity in front of you as well. So. Uh, Take us through a little bit of your journey out to the Western States course, what your feelings were about the course, and then take us through what started happening out there
yeah,
as well,
yeah,
because it wasn't just this wasn't just the ankle. I mean, there was a lot going on, and yeah, so take us through it, because scary shit.
yeah. It
Honestly.
was a bit of
Yeah.
a roller coaster ride. I mean, so wrapped up school end of year school tasks, and was when I planned to come out here right after school ended for the 3 weeks leading up to the race. It was a good plan to get out here and get to know the course, and then also have time to just not have to deal with travel in the week leading up to the race, and sort of be settled and adjusted to the altitude and ready to go. So I came out here, it was like June 5th, I think, 5th or 6th, and went for one easy trail run. I sort of kept it easy the couple of days before I traveled as well, because the plan was to do um, a recon of the course in 3 days. The start of the next week, the start of my first week that I was here. So I was
So
going to do
you were
Robinson.
gonna do the whole course in 3 days?
Well, besides the high country, I guess I was going to do Robinson, like what the training camp is. I was going to do Robinson Flat to
Okay.
Forest Hill to the river, and then river to the finish, and then check out the escarpment climb maybe on the fourth day. So that would have been like my last big block of training. But the the couple of days before I was going to do that, so my second day here in California, I went to do a bike to run workout, like I was talking about earlier, and had a loop planned starting and ending in Forest Hill. But during the bike ride, um, was a pretty hot day, but I wasn't riding really intense, or it wasn't going to be that long. It'd be about a 4 hour ride. 2 hours in or so, I stopped at a gas station, drank a cold slushy, and then as soon as I got going again from the gas station, something felt kind of off. Um, and if you've ever been to Auburn and Forest Hill, so you descend into the canyon of the American River from Auburn, and then there's a road that called Old Forest Hill Road that leads back up to the main road that goes to Forest Hill. So it's kind of like a gradual climb for probably the last hour of the ride. It's like 17 miles, sort of falls flat uphill, and I just started to get like sort of uncomfortable in my back and neck, and just felt that the heat was getting to me or something. I was lightheaded, I was dizzy, um, and my heart rate was in the 180s, but I was riding so slowly.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so I had to stop on the side of the road, pour water all over myself. I was trying to cool as best as possible. At this point, I thought it was just maybe a heat thing. I was just going to try to get to the end of the ride and then really rehydrate and cool off before I ran. But as it progressed, I realized like something was wrong. I was not going to be running after this. And maybe 10K before Forest Hill, I decided I can't get back to Forest Hill. Like I'm not going to make it. So I felt so bad.
Yeah.
So I pulled over in like this one shady spot on the side of the road, side of the main road to Forest Hill, and I just put my thumb up trying to hitchhike back to Forest Hill, and there was actually a house right next to this one shady spot where a woman walked out into the backyard, and she was like, I saw you there. Like, do you need help? Do you need a ride? And turns out she was a nurse. She brought me some water and like drove me back to Forest Hill. I figured, yeah, I just need to rehydrate it. Like, I don't know, I guess I'm hot. I'll be fine. So she very kindly gave me a ride back to Forest Hill. I'm driving out of Forest Hill, and all of a sudden, like, my vision goes blurry. I feel lightheaded and dizzy, nauseous. So I pull over into the one parking lot that's there, and it's the parking lot of a fire station. I got out of the car and realized like I was going to collapse. So I laid down on the asphalt, and I just needed to like lay there for a minute. I didn't know what was going on. Like crawled over to the fire station, knocked on the door, and they quickly took care of me. They were worried about, I guess, my heart because I was showing symptoms of uh, not only maybe heat exhaustion, but something going on with my heart. So they hooked me up to an EKG. And at the time, which this was a misidentification, but at the time they told me, you need to go to the hospital because you're having a heart attack. So I got in the ambulance, and they're like asking me for phone number of next of kin, and it was stressful. But
Yeah.
once I got to the hospital, it turns out it was just an arrhythmia called atrial fibrillation, which is pretty common, it turns out, and um, pretty common in endurance athletes, although it happens less often with younger people. Um, and it sort of set off like a week of just uncertainty. I mean, I left the hospital still in atrial fibrillation. So basically, what it is your heart is not beating regularly. So it's like you feel beats, but they're not in time. Like uh, there'll be two quickly, and then a
Hmm.
pause, and then another one. So it's very obvious whether you're in it or not. I can just feel put my hand on my heart.
Yeah.
So I was in it for about 4 days and finally got into. I tried to like do some jogging because they told me that nothing seemed to be wrong. They took images of my heart and everything looked healthy. And they said sometimes this happens. You can try to do some light exercise. So I'd go out and do like a walk jog. And as soon as I started jogging 9 or 10 minute pace, my heart rate goes way up, and I can feel my heart pounding irregularly in my chest. And uh, it's just uncomfortable. Like you can't run. So I back into a hospital, and they said, "Yeah, this is not right." Um, they did a procedure that put me back into normal sinus rhythm, um, and so that's more or less been okay since. Um, and I saw a sports cardiologist as well, so someone who works specifically with athletes, and he kind of assured me that the the only real risk of running Western States, while it's not necessarily recommended 2 weeks after an electrical cardioversion, the only real risk would be to go back into AFib, and like I had already felt that when I'm in atrial fibrillation, I can't really run. Like I can walk okay. Um, if I try to push through it, I end up with potentially symptoms like I had on my bike ride. Um, so I got the go
So
ahead to go for the race, and if I went back into AFib, then I would just have to call it. But I was kind of I was really relieved and mentally prepared to give it a go.
so
Um,
was the cardiologist saying that exercise could induce sort of an AFib episode, or that it just is kind of random, or maybe, getting the ice bath or something
yeah.
like that from
So
Western states would do it?
so there are a number of potential triggers. Intense exercise can be one. Um, Ingesting something cold apparently can be one, and I think that's what triggered it for me. Caffeine can be a trigger. Alcohol can be a trigger. Stress, um, lack of sleep, or if you have some sort of
Mm,
sleep disorder, that can contribute to it. And apparently, it's more common in endurance athletes because, well, there's still a lot more research that needs to be done. I guess I've only done as much reading as I can do in the last week or so. But I guess uh, a lot of exercise, a lot of intense exercise, and a lot of volume can make you more predisposed to atrial fibrillation.
yeah. Well, it seems like there's a lot of the contributing factors that could be at play coming into, you know, quite maybe unarguably the biggest race of your life as well. So whether it was, stress, lack of sleep, travel, altitude, a lot of
Yeah.
different things. Were you at altitude? Had you been staying at altitude? I thought
So
you were
I am
trying to
staying at
acclimate a little bit.
altitude. Yeah, I'm staying at about 6,700 feet. But um, I, when I was on the bike ride when this happened, I was down at between 1,000 and 2,000 feet. So
Yeah,
I my impression is that altitude probably was not a contributing factor. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. I did go up to altitude and back down. There are a lot more questions than
yeah.
there are answers, but yeah, it's true. Like maybe a lot of this stuff that I was putting my body through leading up to the race contributed to it, or maybe this was just an unfortunate time where a trigger set off my first episode of AFib and I was already predisposed to it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely, I'm thinking about you with this because I know that, hard stuff as a runner is it's really, at least from my perspective, it's scary because this is our engine, like we're trying to push it in workouts as high as we can go, trying to keep that ceiling as high as we can keep it, and and just as, like, for me as I age, and um, you know, for you now having some different episodes, although it wasn't in extreme exercise that this happened with, for you. um I know that it can be a little bit scary. I went through some things when I was I've gone through some different hard stuff, on different occasions. But when I was a teenager, in in high school track and cross country, I had uh, I had to be taken to the emergency room after I think it was maybe two different races, just because. I thought I was having a heart attack. It wasn't something like right after the race. It was like during the cool down. I like getting, arm pain and felt, weird rhythms in my heart. Similar stuff going on, and I've had some different, episodes as an adult, from stress as well, with thinking I was having heart attacks and things along those lines that have always given me pause with exercise and stuff like that. So I certainly, I feel for you from my perspective on those things. Um,
Yeah, it is
but
scary,
yeah,
but it's also like, what we do out running on the trails like that keeps us healthy. Like at the same
yeah,
time,
yep,
um, I wouldn't want to give that up. That would probably be very detrimental to my health in so many other ways if I wasn't able to like train and compete the way that I really love doing. So I don't think it's just something I'll have to like. Yeah, and also what's been really nice is like a lot of people have since reached out, and like you said, you had some experience with some hard things, and it's more common than I think I realized before this happened to me. And yeah, it's nice to know that we we can manage them and still do what we want to do and just focus on like the positive aspects of health that like competing and training gives us.
yeah. I mean, my amateur doctor inside of me was like, oh, like, Will like increased his volume in this way, and probably started having growth patterns within his body, that maybe like started to develop one side of his heart, faster than the other, and then started pumping different, like different rates, like due to the volume. But it's amateur hour over here, right? It's like I don't have any insight on this
Yeah, I think
whatsoever.
it's so complicated that there's like it's hard to know what
Yeah,
contributes to it, but
yeah. It's like thinking stars are sardines that are stuck in the sky or something like that. But it's completely, um, completely different. But in some ways, uh, you know, this was this was a complication that you were experiencing, but this is not what took you out of Western States.
yeah, so after this like pretty stressful week of going to the emergency room, coming back, trying to figure out what was going on, going back to the hospital and getting out of AFib, and then like trying to see someone to get advice on whether I could race or not. Like all this was going on, and finally I got the all clear to race. And looking back on it, like that would have been that week and a half of stress probably would have been pretty detrimental
Yeah,
to
I
my
think so.
headspace going into the race. But I was still going to give it a go. And then the day after I got cleared, I go to run in Forest Hill again. um, so I'm gonna have to conquer my demons in Forest Hill at some point. But um, yeah, in Forest Hill, um, I just took one misstep on like a pretty easy section of trail. You step on a rock, and it was like the worst ankle roll I've ever had. Went straight over the top of my left foot, probably like had the top of my foot impact the ground even.
Oh man,
And
yeah, like a
I knew
full
it was
roll.
bad right away. Yeah, it was a full on roll. Ran the rest of the way until I got to like just part of the gravel road that I decided I should walk the last 5K or whatever to the river. Um, and yeah, I could tell it was bad, and I was holding out hope that it was just a sprained ankle, that the swelling would go down in a couple days, and I could get on the bike and loosen it up, and then get to the start line. But it wasn't getting better, so I went and got it X-rayed, and I ended up breaking the ankle. So that's why I'm not starting Western States.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah, that's. Oh man.
Yeah, just two strokes of bad luck, but it's also, um, like you say, maybe some of the um, training and stress and lack of sleep could have potentially ended up being a trigger for the heart thing. And then Um, you know, roll an ankle. It happens to the best of us, but also the better you are at trail running, the less often it happens. So I got to get better, but it does feel like just two pretty unlucky things.
Yeah, I mean, from what it sounded like in your post, it was when they usually happen. It's, an asleep at the wheel sort of moment, right? Like you
Yeah,
just got through
exactly.
the technical stuff and, you know, you're there's one rock for, 2 miles and you decide to step on that rock. It's
Yeah, we
like,
all know that feeling.
you're like where like what was it? Like how did this
Yeah.
happen? Just I so Broken Arrow just happened this past weekend. Was it last year? Yeah, last year at Broken Arrow, second lap, I was getting a little bit tired, right? We're heading into this, just kind of like like the flowy section in the woods, right?
Yep.
There's not, I don't know. Broken Arrow is it's a great event. There's not a lot of great trail running in the race. I don't know, like I don't maybe that's good. Like people are not going to like me saying that, but there's like a limited amount, and this was like in the nice trail running part, right? And I'm like just sweeping down. I forget I think I might have just like went to like you know adjust my bottle or something like that.
Yep.
Took my eyes off it, and I was just like full digger, face down into the dirt, like moaning on the ground, like just because I'm like, what happened here? My bottle probably saved me a little bit with falling because it just like burst open, like I don't know, with the soft flask, those the 3-part or the 2-part top or whatever, it just
Yeah.
like shot right out and that kind of saved me with my fall. But it was one of those things where I like look back, I was like, what the hell did I even hit? I don't know. It's just like I'm in so much pain right now, and I don't even know what happened. So those, yeah, it's and I do consider myself a good stable trail runner. I'm not the fastest one, but I usually stay up.
Yeah.
Uh, but one of the things I wanted to ask you with the with the withdrawal, with this kind of like series of unfortunate events, um, I know that you are big into self-talk. Um, we didn't really discuss this too much previously, but I'd listened to a previous interview and heard you talking about it. It's something that I found really intriguing, and I wanted to know like if there like have been some adjustments to your self-talk and like or if you've had to be really intentional with that, you know, in this kind of period of kind of resetting.
Um, well, I haven't really been training much since all this happened, so and I guess when I'm really being intentional about my self-talk, it's while I'm training, while I'm racing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I'm just at home trying to process this stuff, it feels a lot more um, yeah, it doesn't feel like a structured part of training, I guess, or like self-talk,
Okay.
if I would call it that. So too early to say, but it has got me thinking about like, even when after I had like sort of passed this hurdle of the heart arrhythmia and then trying to get back out to training, there is a piece of it where like I'm probably going to have to keep working on like just being confident that my body's going to be able to handle what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that's something I work on going forward, like being confident that yeah, I'm I'm gonna feel normal.
Yeah.
um, but no, yeah, I don't know if I've done like much work specifically on what you're referencing, just because I haven't been training.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I know that I'm sure that you had things to say to yourself in Western states,
Yeah,
and
I
I'm
had a clear
and
plan. I had a clear plan for Western states. So
yeah, yeah. So just for those who don't know this about you, you have very intentional self-talk, like scripted self-talk for your racing. I think also for your training as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, maybe not so much, or maybe not quite as scripted as you would for racing and things like that. But I found that really, really intriguing and just like, um, from a mental standpoint, because we talk about, ultra running as being really, really in like exceptionally mental as opposed to maybe some other types of running sports, although they all have that time in which you need to have that mental strength to push beyond your competitors and things like that. But
Yeah,
um,
for sure.
uh, I found it really interesting that you had like that you worked on the verbiage, right? That it made a difference to you, exactly what you were going to say to
Yeah.
yourself. And I guess I wanted to ask, like, if there were times in which you felt like you had been telling yourself the wrong things, and that's like maybe what got you so specific, or if it was just like always something that you just like to have clarity in what you say.
Well, it's definitely not been always something that I've worked on because I think when I started um, getting a little bit more intentional about this, it sort of stemmed from like I feel before I got into trail running in 2023. Um, Previously, my competitive endeavors in endurance sport were really not that successful, and but I don't think it was necessarily a fitness thing. Like I think I've built fitness pretty steadily and always had pretty good ability, but I haven't ever like performed that well until I started doing these longer trail races. And but also I started doing these longer trail races after like a period off of competition, and it was something that I thought about. Like I know I have a pretty good ability, but I've never been able to perform well. So what's missing? And
Hmm.
I guess that's what led me to being really specific about the mental preparation and the self talk. Is like I didn't think I was reaching my potential, and I thought maybe the mental side was what was holding me back.
So that yeah, that brought you to, like, it wasn't through working with like a coach
No,
or anything
no,
like that. It was just like,
it was just new perspective from myself, I guess.
yeah. Well, I got to say, I like it a lot more than, heat suit training. It
Yeah,
sounds.
it's probably more fun than heat suit training. I uh, the thing about the long trail races is like everybody runs out of their fitness, at you run out of your fitness and then hopefully you can fuel and get access to more of your fitness again. And then
Yeah.
and then you run out of your fitness again and hopefully you can fuel to get access to the fitness once again. So like everybody's running out of their fitness, and then who can who can get access to it again? And obviously fueling and hydration and cooling are like really important ways to get access to it again. But the mental side of it is totally important. I mean, maybe it's more important than all the others. I don't know. Just because
Yeah.
like having a level head and also like believing you can do something is probably worth more than. I mean, people talk about like the gains that super shoes have made in marathons, and I'm not denying that there are gains made by the shoes, but I just think seeing someone else run a certain time or do a certain performance and saying, "Well, okay, they can do it, I can do it too." That's worth like so much more than any carbon plate or yeah. So no, so I think it is. That's why I focus on it so much.
Yeah. I think, like, they say it's a lot easier to follow than to lead, and these types of there's all different types of sayings. But when there's something that you're really truly uncomfortable with, so like I tend to I tend to lead on trails when I run and things like that, just because um, I feel I feel most comfortable there from like a running standpoint. Maybe not from a racing standpoint, but from a running standpoint. Um, but I was recently in Italy and I was driving and I felt really uncomfortable, uh, like knowing how to navigate the roads and things like that in like these, Italian islands with really narrow roads and really crazy drivers and things like that everywhere. And so if I was just driving, I'd be driving pretty slowly and, kind of making my way. And then, but if there was somebody in front of me, I'd just be, just follow them exactly where they're going. I wouldn't have
Yes.
any issue whatsoever. And so, yeah, when we do have that kind of discomfort, having someone there to, to lead the way, it's like, oh, I don't think that I can run, um, you know, like let's say these different barriers, the ones that I remember were like, 2 minute, 800 meters in, like that was a barrier, it's like, how do you do that? And, I remember, way back to like breaking 5 minutes in the mile and stuff like that. It was like, you got to follow somebody to do it. And, yeah, so I agree wholeheartedly with that, but also, those springy super shoes are great too.
Yeah, again, not denying I'm not denying all the other stuff. It's just,
Yeah,
again, low hanging fruit. Like, I think the mental side of things is the biggest low hanging fruit you could pick.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm I'm hoping to, to hear more about what, just kind of as you grow and as you um kind of start to, navigate the, the elite side of these races and things like that and have more interviews and things like that. I hope to hear more and more about it. And like what your approach to different races is and things like that. So what's the healing looking like on the ankle? How much time you're going to need to take? Can you bike? What's going on with that right now?
Um, I don't have a clear timeline yet. Um, so it's something called an avulsion fracture. I guess the ligament, like when it gets stretched hard, rips a little piece of bone, chips a little piece of bone off of
Mm,
the outer leg bone. So it's not like when I got the X-ray, they said maybe 4 to 6 weeks it'll heal, but that's for the bone to heal. It could potentially be a little bit longer to be ready to get back out on trails. We'll see, but I'm not on the bike yet. I'm hoping to get on the bike pretty soon, and that'll be the way that I can train before I'm ready to get back on some tricky trails and back to training for the races I want to do. So timeline uncertain
yeah,
right now, but it'll be probably a month or two before I'm racing again,
yeah.
or at least
Or running or like running trails again, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. People heal at
You
different
said,
rates.
yeah, yeah. Um, well, do you have? I mean, now, I mean, Western States is off the docket right now for this year. Um, but what are you looking at coming up? Do you have it
Yeah,
did like that like the you said it lit a fire a little bit to get back to Western States, but like what did you like get onto ultra sign up immediately or anything
yeah,
like
of
that?
course. Like as soon as I had to go on ultra sign up to withdraw from Western states, and in that same browsing session, I was looking at the race calendar. Um, yeah, I mean, I Western states is like a dream race for me, and now I feel more motivation than I've ever felt as an athlete to get back there. So it's got to be. I mean, everything for the next year has got to be geared towards getting back for 2026. And I guess the first opportunity for that would be potentially Javelina 100 at the end of October if I can get healthy and put together some good training for that. So maybe that's the first thing in in my sights.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do you
we'll
think that's the
see.
kind of course that is so? Would you say you'd be suited most by a really like high running course
Hmm.
like
I
Javelina?
don't I don't really know yet. I'm sure that yeah, I think that course would suit me well, but I don't I don't necessarily know that I'm not strong at like a climbing course yet. I I think like I still don't have that much experience, so I need to keep trying some things and learning what I'm good at. But and Javelina is not necessarily like a race that would inspire me,
Mm,
just in and of itself.
a
Not
lap
to say
race, yeah,
I've heard it's a great race, but it's it's a pretty flat like five loops in a desert park like
yeah,
um, but Western States is a race that really inspires me. So if it's a
yeah.
stepping stone towards that, then I'll be really motivated to do well. So that's kind of why I have my eye on that one. But I could always also do something different at the end of this year and then maybe target Black Canyon again or something like
Again,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, but I'll definitely be trying to get back to Western States.
Well, you know that you know how to do Black Canyon right. I mean, and that is it's definitely I was so surprised when I went out there and raced it. Um, I was surprised. I mean, I was surprised at how grindy the second half of that race was. Like,
Yeah, people talk about it as like a really fast race, which I guess it is a fast race. I mean, if you're running like 7 minutes flat for 100K on a trail, that's fast, but it's not easy. It is not an easy course. It's yeah, it's tricky, and like you say, the second half you're like kind of up and down, up and down. You're just there. There's one longer climb, well, two longer climbs where you're like you say, kind of grinding through that
yeah,
end of an ultra fatigue. It's an interesting course.
yeah, yeah. Beautiful, and yeah, challenging, more, I think more rugged than I expected in that the second half for sure.
Yeah.
Um, that's kind of the reason why I was asking about whether you thought Javelina would be good for you because, like, from what I understand, it's like as close to a road 100 mile as you can get. So
Yeah, I mean, I
on
haven't been out
trail,
there and run it. Like I've seen a little bit of the coverage of it. It does, yeah, it does look a lot more straightforward than something like Black Canyon, for example, and it's obviously faster, but it's also a 100 miler, and
yeah,
I mean, it's on trails. Like it is not a road race. But yeah, I think I could do well there.
yeah. Well, cool. Yeah, I mean, I was, sort of hoping that you were gonna say you're gonna do JFK, but
Yeah, I would like to do that someday too. I mean,
yeah,
that one's an interesting one for me because I was talking to you a little bit about it when we were running. Because there is that first section on the AT, but then after that, it is essentially a road race, right?
yeah. I mean, you're on cinders
Yeah.
for a marathon, and then you've got kind of rolling hills
Mhm.
on road to finish up. But um, yeah, no, it's one of those ones that's got so much history to it, and it always has great competition as well. So
Yeah.
that's that you're gonna have that, um, and it's that East Coast for me, the East Coast pride for sure. Um, but yeah, I mean, just excited to see whatever it is you're gonna do. Um, so one of the things we didn't touch on is kind of like the greater kind of Western states preparation story at large. I exchanged with you a little bit on this earlier about like what makes it so hard to get to the Western states start line, and what made me think of this was you saying like I want to go to JFK someday, right? And the nice thing about JFK is you can go whenever you want.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to get in. You don't even have to try to get in the registration early or anything like that. It's not like Cocodona or, um, well, I mean, I think a lot of races outside of Western states or, Hard Rock or things like that, with your resume, you're going to be able to get into, kind of just generally, right? But Western states, a little bit different, right? You're either putting in for the lottery every year and, hoping, or you're getting one of those golden tickets. And we saw this year, as in many years, but this year probably more dramatically than most other years, a huge amount of people, withdrawing from the race, not being able to get to the start line. All the people I know, everyone I know who got into Western states, or have, that I've met and like know personally, didn't make it to the start line.
Oh, so you're the curse. Thanks.
Yeah, oh God, no, that's not what I was going to say. But but essentially, my point is that it seems really tough. It seems really tough because, from my perspective, it seems like there's a lot of pressure on that performance, because whether you're a mid packer, just getting there, you want to be at your absolute best when you're at Western States. It's like, some other ultra, it's like you don't get your best stuff. It's like, hey, maybe you got another shot at it, and well, I'm sure you have another shot at it. But like, my point is that I think most people, when they get into Western States, are like, I want to get this right. I got to get this right. I want to leave no stone unturned. Anything like this, there's a lot of pressure to get it right. And I'm not saying that was like the case for you, but it seems like so many people don't get there. And I just like, I feel devastated for all the people that a very dear friend of mine who's, was not able to toe the line, who I was, planning on pacing, not getting into the race because, he got in off the lottery, and it's like, when's that going to happen again? You're like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not when he's 41, probably when he's, 48, 49. Like, it's like, he's going to have another 8-9 years till the opportunity comes again. It's like, it sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. Well, my take on it is that, like, it definitely hurts more to not get to the start line of this race than maybe some other race that, like you say, might be a little easier to get into or plan for the next year or a couple of years down the road or whatever. But
Yeah.
I'm really not sure that it's I'm not sure that it's harder to get to this start line
Yeah.
than any other race. I think maybe it just hurts more when you don't. I don't have like numbers to back this up, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a similar attrition rate before the race to like a lot of other 100 milers. I mean, it's hard to get to the start of a 100 miler, and especially when there are so many people going for it. Like, some are going to have injuries from overtraining or overuse. Some are going to have fluke injuries that no one could have expected. Some are going to roll their ankle. Like, that just happens in trail running. And
Yeah.
I don't know, like, for Western states especially, you plan it so far out, and like, this is your A race pretty much for everybody who does it. Like you say,
Yeah.
mid pack, back of the pack, whatever. That's the thing that they're looking forward to, and they've announced it to everybody for months and months. And so when they don't get there, like, feels like it has more of a big impact. But yeah, I mean, I think this probably happens for a lot of ultras. Just
Yeah.
it's easier to play it down when it's a race that will come around again.
You're probably right. I'm usually wrong. Uh, Both Will and my wife are probably always right. But yeah, I definitely feel like the thing maybe I'm wrong about is that maybe the attrition rate is, maybe it is the same, but it certainly does suck more. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I agree with you. Yeah,
for something like Western States or Hard Rock, these ones that you just basically cannot get into. Um, it stinks. Um, but that moves you from being, I think, what at least most of us were considering to be like our dark horse pick, um, to a fan and a spectator here as well. So I think maybe you're like the boots on the ground right now. I don't know if you're seeing people out around racing. Do you have your picks or people that you're following race day that you think are going to be the uh, the contenders this year?
yeah. I mean, I don't have like a full rundown of all my picks, but I definitely have a few in mind. And yeah, it's kind of fun to now be like a fan for this. I'll just make the best of it. But yeah, I don't know. Are you gonna like ask me to? Are you gonna put me on the spot and ask me to make a pick here?
I mean, put it this way, like who's we don't have to make like prediction picks, but
I'll make
whose
one if you want
races
me
are
to.
you most interested in following?
Okay. Um, really interested in seeing Vincent Bouillard, and I think he could win it on the men's side. Um, I think everybody's probably looking forward to seeing how Tara Dower does on the women's side.
Oh
I
yeah.
think it'd be cool to see her at the front. But like Riley Brady's been running so well, hard to pick against them for the win. So I'll probably be watching that race closely. Um, yeah, it'd be cool to see how David Roche does. Like I was at Leadville last summer when he crushed it, and seems like he's ready to go again. A lot of people will be watching. I'll be watching his race, and yeah, those are just a few that I'm interested in. But
Yeah. I think that there is a lot of talk about Vincent, like that as far as whether you know I think there's like this like curiosity. It's like, is he really the real deal? Like
I think if I have to pick someone right now, I think he's gonna win.
you think so? All right. Wow. That's your pick. Wow. That's cool. I don't think a lot of people will pick him. I think that's a pretty unique pick. But I also think that's probably because we have like this American centric audience as well,
Yeah,
and it's going to be people picking probably mostly David Roche or Killian, you know,
rightly
for the
so.
win.
Rightly so. Why not? They
Yeah,
they could
yeah,
definitely win it.
yeah. Well, absolutely. It's like, but um, there's a little bit of joking around about like whether um, Adam Peterman is like the most underrated trail runner ever, sort of
Again, he
sort of
could
thing as
also win
well.
it.
Yeah, there's plenty of
That's what's
people.
interesting. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
and then like you have these 200-mile runners, like I said, Tara Dower, and there's Joe
Dan
McConaughey and
Green.
Dan Green, and that'll be cool to see them run a faster 100. Like, yeah, there's a lot there. It'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, yeah, some really really great people. I've got like this East Coast soft spot, right? So with Riley Brady, being from Pennsylvania originally, and just their meteoric rise, over the past, basically, they had a just this year has just been insane, right?
Yeah,
Um,
unbelievable.
yeah, yeah, like absolutely insane. So uh, I feel like Riley's going to be pretty darn tough to beat. Um, but yeah, I mean, you've got Tara Dower in there. You've got a huge field of incredible athletes. Um, so if anybody's off their game a little bit,
A lot of East Coast runners, actually, right?
well, a lot of people
Like,
that originally are from the East Coast, yeah.
yeah,
Um,
there's I think Ryan Montgomery is in the East Coast now, and
oh, is Ryan
um,
Montgomery on the East Coast now?
yeah,
I thought he was from California, but
no,
but if
I think he's in
he's
New
in
Hampshire.
California now.
Yeah. Mm.
Oh yeah, okay. Well,
and Dan
Uh,
Green, West Virginia. So
Dan Green's West Virginia. But when I think about like the original people from, like Seth Rulings from North Carolina or Tennessee
Tennessee,
area,
yeah,
yeah, and uh, like Riley Brady from Pennsylvania. Um, David Roach is from Maryland,
yeah.
um, originally, and we've Tara Dower, I think, is originally East Coast as well, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
I just talked to her at Broken Arrow, and she said she lived in New Jersey, right near Blairstown, actually. So,
okay, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So there's a lot of East Coast connection. It just everybody moves west to get better, which I'm sure will happen to you too
yeah.
here
I mean,
shortly.
it's a nice place to train out west. So, not that the East
Yeah,
Coast is bad.
it's easier to get to the good racing and all that kind of good stuff too. So
Yeah,
I don't blame anybody for doing it. Um, but we miss everybody that does. But another Pennsylvania person, Jeff McGavero.
oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, uh, he's from like outside of Philadelphia.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
Also, we'll be right up there at the front.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's
So
strong.
yeah, yeah, it's gonna be great. Very excited to see it all. Now I've taken up a bunch of your time now. I really appreciate you coming on and chit chatting with me. I don't want to stretch it too long. And hopefully we'll get out for another run when you get back on the East Coast here and get healed up. Um, should be good. Should be good.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
yeah, you'll have to send me text updates about the race if you've got any connection. I'll want the inside scoop on who's doing what. it's gonna be it's gonna be fun. I'll be watching from this side.
All right. Yeah, I'll keep you up to date. It's good to talk to you, Sam.
Yeah, you too, Will, and take care out there. Hope you heal up here real soon and get back out racing. Um, just really excited to follow the rest of their career, even though won't get to follow you this year at Western States.
Yeah.
All right, well, just want to say thanks to everybody who's been listening today, and if you're liking the podcast, make sure you subscribe to the channel, as well as give us a review, give us a comment. These types of things, all great. And from us here at Bear Right Trail Podcast, happy trails.